Hello, everybody. This is Jennifer Schaus coming to you live from Washington, D.C., and thank you for joining us in our Webinar Wednesday series. We host a webinar every Wednesday at 12 o'clock and 12:30 Eastern Time. They're all complimentary and they're all recorded. Our presenters range from accountants to attorneys, industry experts, and other business professionals who are sharing their knowledge about government contracting. You can find the full schedule for the entire year on our website under the webinar section. All of the recordings can be found on our YouTube channel, or you can go to our website under the webinar section. There's a subsection called Archived Webinars, and they are all listed there. And that is a full list from the past few years. As I mentioned, these are all complimentary and recorded. If you do have questions today, I am the speaker, so if you have questions for me, certainly send us an email or give us a call. Contact information is on the last slide. Quick blurb about us. We are based in downtown Washington, D.C. and provide professional services for both product and service companies. Our clients are large businesses as well as mid-size and emerging small businesses all over the world, and we help them with anything from market analysis reports to proposal writing, contract vehicles including GSA schedules, and other services that are listed here on the slide. We do have events and seminars throughout the year. You can find those on our website under the events section. We do have quite a few things coming up, a couple of GSA schedule classes in the local DC area. One's on Tuesday, September 11th. Another GSA class on September 18th, October 4th, as well as November 5th. The links are here on the slide as well as on our website, again, under the events section. In addition to that, we've got two construction conferences. One is September 13th in partnership with the Virginia Procurement Technical Assistance Program out in Fairfax is where the conference will take place. And it's also in partnership with Cohen Seglius law firm. Our other construction conference is November 13th through the 15th. That's going to be in Austin, Texas. Again, all of these are listed on our website under the events section. A little background here about myself, which you can see on this slide. But let's dig into today's topic, which is resubmitting a rejected GSA schedule proposal. So the GSA schedule is an open and rolling RFP, request for proposal or solicitation. It does go through updates. The various schedules will update their solicitation throughout the year, so you want to make sure that you're always responding to the correct refresh. So your response to a GSA schedule is actually in the form of a proposal. So the agenda, I'm going to talk about why your schedule or why your proposal may have been rejected. This is not for companies that have been on the schedule and are attempting to get back on because maybe they did not meet the sales requirement. This is if you submitted a proposal and GSA found your proposal to be not compliant. We'll talk about the components of the proposal, some best practices, and then I'll make some concluding remarks. So first of all, why could your schedule be rejected? Sometimes it's due to the financial analysis. GSA finds your debt-to-income ratio is not meeting the standards that they are looking for. So typically what will happen is you submit your proposal, you get the electronic receipt, and then GSA will send over the SF 527, which is the standard form 527. If you Google that form, you can certainly find that online and take a look at it perhaps before you submit your proposal. Other issues can range from maybe not having enough full-time employees, your sales volume is too low, you may have incomplete documentation, meaning you forgot to submit something small, which back in the day there was more of a human component to the review process, and GSA would contact you and typically by phone and ask you to resubmit the form that was missing. Sometimes your documentation is out of date. You've got different years for your financials, or your open ratings report is expired, or other forms, or your past performance for your contracts has expired, the 2-year, we'll say, cutoff date. And then sometimes GSA, we have seen this happen as well, makes an error. We had a client once that got rejected because GSA said that they had failed to submit their income statement. The client had labeled their income statement profit and loss, and GSA did not realize that two are the same there. So obviously many issues, and there could be some more that aren't listed here, but you want to try to minimize the risk here and do a quality control check before you submit initially. And if you are in the case where you actually have been rejected, quality control review before submitting is certainly beneficial to you. Components of the proposal. So we're going to talk about when you are now resubmitting. You're going to have to submit a full-blown proposal again, not just the piece that was missing or not compliant. And because there is such a wait time, some of your documents may have kind of fallen out of that timeline or may no longer be within scope. So you want to make sure that you're staying abreast of, again, those refreshes that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. So you've got the three main sections: administrative, technical, and pricing. Administrative section is obviously your SAM registration, your financials, that SF 527. If you are submitting a rejected one, maybe throw that in there as well. You'll have to make a note of the rejection, when it happened, why it happened, and submit a letter, the letter that you received from GSA stating the rejection. The technical piece here is going to be your corporate narrative. It's usually about 2 pages and has specific questions for you to answer. Same thing there with the quality control, about 2 pages and specific questions. Your past performance is the contracts that are relevant to the SIN or SIN numbers that you're pursuing. You want to double check this, because if you've waited 6 months for GSA to review your proposal and suddenly they found it not compliant or within scope, then you want to make sure that when you are resubmitting that those contracts are still within that 2-year cutoff. Your open rating survey, that's going to be 6 preferably happy customers that are completing a survey based on your customer service, your pricing, your responsiveness, and other factors. This survey is only good for 12 months. So again, if you were submitting perhaps against the professional services schedule where you maybe waited 12 months for GSA just to look at your proposal, this is probably now going to be expired and invalid. So ensure that when you resubmit, again, that you have a pretty tight quality control on your resubmission package. Your pricing, if you're providing professional services, you'll want to have your labor category descriptions, your internal commercial sales practices, and then external, looking at competitors and other companies on the GSA schedule. Invoices or quote sheets for each of the labor categories to prove that you have sold these in the past, or at least proposed these labor categories at the hourly rate. And the Service Contract Act, if it's applicable for the non-professional titles, you go to the Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Table 5 chart to pull up that information. And within the section, obviously, goes your price proposal. For product companies, very similar. Obviously, you're not going to have labor category descriptions, but you may have some product splash sheets and other information. But the rest is pretty much the same there for product companies. As we dig into the CSP, you want to make sure that you're offering GSA better than the discounts that you're offering other companies, regardless of quantity or terms and conditions. A lot of times you will have exceptions here, which will require an explanation. And then you'll fill out this chart for certain schedules. Schedule 70, you're going to have more of a this document, which is built into the GSA e-offer site, but then also a chart that kind of breaks down the categories of customers that you're selling to. GSA will also want to know if you have any deviations that are outside your standard discounts, meaning any kind of like one-off discounts that you've given to specific customers. We've got no checks here, but sometimes you may actually have yes, and you will certainly put an explanation there. This slide here is to ensure that maybe something you probably want to do before you decide to pursue the schedule, along with some other activities that we highly recommend, talking to your customer to find out what their preferred method is. But if you are providing labor categories, using the calque.gsa.gov site will allow you to conduct market research and ensure that your prices are in sync with your competitors, because GSA is going to do this. So if you're coming in at a rate that is much higher for labor categories than other companies on the schedule, GSA will certainly negotiate you down to lower rates. And if you can't live with those, well, then the GSA schedule is probably not worth your time, because you're not going to be profitable or have any margin through the schedule. So again, this is something we certainly and highly encourage conducting before deciding to go down the path. Here's just a sample of what a proposal, price proposal might look like. This is for extracted from a IT professional services. You've got a program manager, and your GSA proposed rate with the built-in IFF is going to be lower than your commercial rate and lower than your most favored customer. But GSA will bounce this up against your competitors. So again, make sure that with all things being equal, meaning minimum years of experience and minimum education, that you're coming in within a point or two of the others on the schedule. Your GSA rates are only a price ceiling or a not to exceed rate, meaning that once you are on the schedule and you start bidding for work, you're typically going to offer rates through your schedule lower than your GSA rate. So if you're on the schedule and you've got a rate of $100 per hour for a program manager, you start bidding for work through your schedule, that rate may then bump down to 97 or 96. So some best practices. You want to ensure that you qualify for the schedule, but you also want to make sure that this is the method that your customers prefer to purchase. GSA does a great job of marketing themselves, and that's why sometimes people have the misconception that it's required to do business with the government, when obviously, in fact, it is not. If you're resubmitting right away after the rejection, make sure that your original paperwork is still current and valid within those timeframes. Many of these documents are going to expire after 12 months. And on that past performance, with the contracts, you've got a 2-year cutoff, and that goes down to the month that you're submitting. So be very aware of those timelines. As I mentioned before, and I can't mention enough, make sure, again, that you're analyzing the market and this is your customer's preferred method of purchasing. You do want to fill your pipeline with opportunities before you get onto the schedule, not after. And anyone that is perhaps not pursuing, meaning government agencies that do not typically use the GSA schedule, sometimes it's an education process, and you want to let them know that they do have access to this contract vehicle. It eliminates a lot of paperwork for them. Certain dollar thresholds for each SIN number. There's direct awards that can be made once you get above a certain threshold. That procurement would then go out for competition. You don't want to rely on, once you're on the schedule, you get signed up for GSA eBuy. This is going to be the RFPs that come directly to you based on your SIN number. Don't use that as your business development. You really need a human body who's out there who understands both GSA, federal government procurement, your industry, and the agencies that you're selling to. And sometimes it helps just to partner with those that are on the schedule as a way to kind of start out in government contracting. On the pricing piece, which is the largest component of the schedule, and that's why we dedicated a slide to it. Some strategies here that we've seen that work well are adding levels to the various job titles that you have for those that are providing services versus products. So if you've got a program manager, perhaps considering adding a couple different levels with minimum education or minimum experience being different for each of those. This gives you some flexibility once you're on the schedule and you start bidding for work. Some concluding remarks. Schedule is certainly not for everyone. There's about 20,000 companies that have the schedule. 63% have zero sales through their schedule. They may have millions of dollars through other contract vehicles or just direct awards that went through full and open competition. But Again, make sure that this is your customer's preferred method. Ensure your pricing is competitive. There's the website again, calque.gsa.gov. Your margins will be low in government contracting typically. So obviously you need higher volume, and your margins will be even lower through the GSA schedule because 99% of the schedule is predicated on your pricing. And again, having that full pipeline before pursuing the schedule. A lot of times we get calls from companies asking for marketing and business development help after they're on the schedule, where that should actually come before pursuing that contract vehicle. If you've got questions about GSA schedules, audits, renewals, modifications, getting on, resubmitting a rejected schedule, or after you've been bumped off for not meeting the $25,000 sales quota, give us a call. We're happy to talk to you and give you some guidance on next steps. Next week, we do continue in our webinar series. You can find the full schedule on our website under the webinar section. If you've got questions about today's topic or topics, certainly contact us at the phone number or email address here. Thanks, everybody.